using your voice to have the most impact on the telephone. In 1971, Albert Mehrabian published a book, Silent Messages, in which he discussed his research on nonverbal communications. He concluded that prospects base their assessment of credibility on factors other than just the words that the salesperson spoke. The prospects studied assigned 55% of the weight to the speaker's body language and the other 38% to the tone and music of their voice. They assigned only 7% of their credibility assessments on the salesperson's actual words. So there is no visual contact on the telephone, so body language isn't perceived directly. Instead, body language is absorbed into the tone of voice as each gesture affects the sounds that come out of our mouths. For example, it's easy to perceive whenever somebody is running, laying back, smiling, or frowning, even if there's no visual contact at all, because all of these actions affect the person's posture, and the posture affects the tone of the voice. Therefore, the percentage of how meaning is resultant over the telephone is divided over the tone of voice, which accounts for around 75%, and words account for the remaining 25% when speaking on the telephone. In other words, if you're talking to a person with a strong foreign accent and you feel frustrated and express that frustration in your voice, don't think that you're fooling them just because they don't have a good grasp of your language. That vocal tone that you express will be felt by the prospective customer even if they don't speak the language well. So speak in kind, welcoming tones regardless of the other person's language ability, and that will have much more positive impact on the other person. In fact, almost the entire message you project to the customer over the phone is communicated through the tone of voice. For example, a monotone, flat voice says, "I am bored and I have absolutely no interest in what you're talking about." Slow speech and a low tone communicate the message, "I'm depressed and I want to be left alone." A high-pitched, empathetic voice, "I'm enthusiastic about the subject." Not too high-pitched, at the appropriate high pitch. An abrupt speed and loud tone says, "I'm angry and I'm not open to input," okay? So high pitch combined with drawn out speed conveys, "I don't believe what I'm hearing." So what do? 1, smiling when talking on the telephone. One way to positively affect the inflection in your voice is to smile, especially when you first answer the telephone. The reason is not psychological, but rather physiological, because when you smile, the soft palate in the back of your mouth raises and the sound waves are more fluid. For people who sing in a choir or in the shower, and you know that the wider you open your mouth and the more teeth you show, the better tone you get. The same applies to the telephone. Smiling helps your voice to sound friendly, warm, and receptive. Okay, now changing the stress on the words. Another way to improve your inflection is to be aware of how stressing certain words changes the feelings of what you're saying. The following sentence, "What would you like us to do about it?" changes the feeling, meaning, and tone if you say it defensively. Okay, what would you like us to do about it? If you emphasize the word "would you." What would you like us to do about it? Okay? And say it with curiosity, emphasizing the words "like us" is, "What would you like us to do about it?" And saying it with apathy, not emphasizing any of the words like you just don't care, "What would you like us to do about it?" Okay? The different vocal tones stressing certain words totally change the meaning of the sentence. Okay? Next, exaggerating your tone. Whenever we're asked to help someone who has a monotone speaking voice improve his or her reflection or inflection, we have him or her start by practicing exaggerating his or her tone using the following 3 steps. 1, take short and uncomplicated sentences such as "Bill isn't here right now," and say it out loud with your normal level of inflection. Bill isn't here right now. Think of inflection on a scale from 1 to 10, with 1 being monotone and 10 being a disc jockey. Now say the same sentence again, but this time exaggerate your inflection all the way up to 10. Sometimes we ask people to visualize themselves as a circus barker under the big top announcing to a big noisy crowd of thousands of people. Bill isn't here right now, for example. Practice this step and stop only when you sound really obnoxious and embarrass yourself and everybody around you. It's a good practice technique. Number 3, say the same sentence again, but this time take your inflection down a couple of notches, say to a level 8. Bill isn't here right now. Finally, say the sentence one more time, taking it down to a level 5 or 6. Bill isn't here right now. Now, level 5 or 6 is a good level at which to keep your inflection over the phone. If you find your inflection slipping over time, go back to step 1 and repeat the process. Okay? Using words. Now, language you use over the telephone must have at least 2 characteristics in order to be effective. 1 is clarity and 2 is accuracy. Okay? So, clarity. The content of the message must be structured in a manner that is easy to follow. Sentences should be short and the language simple. And one of the best ways to communicate clarity is to talk about a subject with which the prospect is familiar and then relate that to the unfamiliar. So that way they have a grasp of the new concept that you're trying to present. Accuracy. The content you present must be coherent and provide sufficient information for talking about the subject in its entirety so it's accurate. Tone of voice. The tone of voice is the most important part of communication over the telephone. It is made up of inflection, pitch, pace, and volume. Inflection, like we talked about before, emphasizes certain words or syllables. Okay? Pitch is the property of sound that places it on a frequency-related scale, high or low. Generally speaking, sounds become irritating when pitch is too high and unperceivable, and when pitch is too low. Pitch should be balanced and avoid either high or low extremes in order for the message to get through without interference. Sometimes people confuse high voice with being friendly, but in fact, a more confident lower tone in the lower natural range comes across as friendlier combined with confidence. That's the ideal voice pitch. Okay? So pace is the number of words spoken over a given period. When you're saying that a person is talking too fast or too slow, you're referring to a person's pace. Experts recommend that the use of mirroring to match the pace of the person we're talking to. People with a fast pace get bored if we talk slowly, while persons with a slow pace usually don't understand someone who is talking too fast. Okay? The last relevant element in regard to the tone of voice is loudness. Loudness is a quality of sound which is measured in correlation with the sound pressure level and can be measured in decibels. The more decibels, the louder the volume. Since perception of loudness is subjective, it is hard to determine which volume is adequate for a certain person. We can only approximate by the way the other person is talking as to how loud we should talk and make ourselves heard. So remember, on the telephone, it is the sound of our voice that has much more impact than the use of words. So what we should do is make sense, and the voice should convey warmth, strength, and caring.